Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Mondays, is my good friend, Michele Berra. Michele, what's up?
Well, it's August. I'm home, which is not ideal since it's terribly hot. But hey, it's probably 6 weeks from now to the beginning of the season, something like that. Maybe the beginning of the preseason, something like that. Please tell me that it's not more than that.
Yeah, we're like a month away from training camp starting. So
Yeah. Okay. Now we're talking a month.
a little
Wow.
bit over a month,
A little bit over a month.
maybe like 5 weeks away.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's
We still got some time. We're still in August, so this is definitely the hey. We made this up to talk about today. This is where we're at in the NBA podcasting world. But hey, listen, we're still delivering 3 podcasts a week. I had somebody ask me this week, you really do still do 3 podcasts in the off season a week? I'm like, we do. We're insane. So,
yeah.
Hey,
and it's not that like people are not listening. I can't wait for the fry pod and for the wet pod to just be there. I'm listening to them as soon as they come out.
Yeah,
it's hey, give me some basketball. I just need some basketball.
I know. Hey, if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we're going to read reviews this Friday on the Fry Pod. So we've already had a lot of people leave reviews. I put out a call on Twitter for that, and I was pleasantly surprised by the number of people that did that. So if you would please do that, and you need to do it probably by Wednesday if you want to make the show for Friday, because it takes a couple days for those reviews to actually show up in Apple Podcasts. So if you're not listening to Apple Podcasts, which I realize a lot of you are not, obviously if you're on the stream right now, you're not listening on Apple Podcasts. But if you have an iPhone, click the purple podcast app, and then please leave us a 5-star review. Only 5-star reviews will be read. Okay. So if you want to leave us a bad review, sorry, we're not reading on the podcast. Okay.
Not very democratic. I mean, you should like read some like bad reviews. Like, hey, you're terrible. This is the worst OKC podcast ever. Fun.
Nope, not doing it. Nope, not happening. Not happening. Okay, so today we did this exercise last year, and I thought it was a good one, and I think worth doing. I mean, on almost every year until we actually know what all these players are. And that's kind of the fun thing about it, is that we can do a podcast with almost the exact same material, but now we actually know more about all these drafts. And so I thought it would be good to go all the way back to the 2020 draft, the 2021 draft, 22, 23. I don't really think it's worth touching on the 24 draft yet, but just kind of looking at these drafts and looking for trends, and we grade the picks as we go through. Now that we have a little bit of hindsight available to us. So yeah, okay. I will ask you this question, Michele. Actually, I have 2 questions for you. First question: should we count the 2020 draft as a rebuild draft?
Whatever happens after Russ is gone is rebuild.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't think we talked about the 2020 draft last year, but I do think that it's worth discussing. So
2020 is Poku, right?
Oh, it's Poku.
I want to formally disagree with you guys on the Mike Muscala thing, because I think it's wrong.
Why?
It's very wrong. I mean, clearly Mike Muscala saved the Thunder, because had Tyrese Maxey been here in OKC earlier instead of Pokusevski, there is no way, or well, there is a way, but it's a very improbable way that OKC gets whatever they got. So Team Mike, the OKC savior, I mean, we should honor him for that shot only for the rest of his life.
So he saved both the Thunder and the Sixers in your mind.
Sure. Yeah. honest with you, I don't think it matters. Had Mike missed that shot, probably OKC takes Pokuševski with the 19th pick, and who's maybe one less asset to get Pokuševski and not Maxi. But that's because they traded up to get Pokuševski.
Yeah.
Had the 19th pick, they probably would have got him there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably true.
So I'm not sure if I'm sure that the idea of getting Maxi was not what Presti had in his first few things, because I mean, I don't know. He had the chance. He could have gotten it before Pokuševski. And so I don't want to change anything about that. But yeah.
It's butterfly effect. I mean, you never know.
Sure. You never know.
Yeah.
That's why we should honor Mike big time.
I mean, this is just the timeline that we've been put on.
Yeah.
This is it. Okay. So the 2020 draft, this was such a weird draft. One, it was like the COVID year. The draft was held later in the year. So just the timing of it was strange. The top of the draft was, people just didn't know. People just didn't know who these guys were going to be. There's a clear number one pick, and the Timberwolves handled it perfectly, taking Anthony Edwards. He's clearly the best player in this draft. And then things just get wacky from there. I mean, it is truly bizarre. James Wiseman, which was like the Warriors' like big chance to really hit, and they just completely missed on even a rotation player. Like even if this guy could have been a rotation player, it would have helped.
Yeah.
Helped them quite a bit. But James Wiseman, not a rotation player. Like, I know that there's like mixed reviews on LaMelo Ball, but had they have just taken LaMelo, like LaMelo's a really good player, and he's 6'7". He's huge. And if he were to learn how to play basketball with Steph Curry and with Draymond Green and under Steve Kerr, I think it could have helped him in a tremendous way. And I think clearly that should have been the pick. I know that we're talking like Tyrese Halliburton's the one that people always talk about, but Halliburton wasn't going to go number 2.
No.
Going to happen.
No, but I vividly remember us saying, like, why is not like around the Okongwu deal? I mean, why this late? I mean, I vividly remember being wrong on Wiseman. I said, and I remember me saying, if there is one place where Wiseman can become like a great big man, because he had just to finish alley-oops, it's a Golden State, and it clearly went wrong. I was extremely wrong on end because I was scared about the efficiency stuff, which wasn't great. And I was higher on LaMelo, but Wiseman, boy, brutal. And that was, do you remember like how weirdly that draft went in the last 10 days before the actual pick? Devin Vassell posting video of him missing.
Oh yeah, he was going to drop like a rock.
He did. He was mocked at 7, 8, 9. He dropped like not big time, but still it cost him like a few $100 per year,
and ended up in a much better spot. Like, imagine if he's like in Detroit, you know.
Who knows? Butterfly effect. Maybe they don't draft the worst point guard ever, and they are actually a little bit better.
Poor Killian Hayes. This is not Killian Hayes' fault. This is an incompetent ownership group.
Yes, but as Pokuševski, I mean, he is one major reason why that team is not good. Whenever he's on the court, things are just awfully wrong.
Yeah. So we did get to pick 17. The Thunder acquired the draft rights to Poku. They got James Johnson in the trade. If you remember, this was like a part of the era where you just had, I don't know if anybody else did this, but I was always saving these photos from the Thunder in my phone just because like I knew James Johnson was not going to play for the Thunder. So they acquired James Johnson and a 2024 second round draft pick from Minnesota in a 3-team trade. The Thunder sent Ricky Rubio, which is just like another weird photo that you could have saved in your phone. Ricky Rubio in a Thunder uniform. The draft rights to Jaden McDaniels and the draft rights to Emmanuel Quickley.
Yeah.
which they sent to Minnesota and New York respectively. So they used a couple draft picks that, I mean, obviously we've talked about Jaden McDaniels, we've talked about Emmanuel Quickly, and I'm not going to like say like, oh my gosh, the Thunder really messed up here. They should have done this. Or they should have done that. They're swinging for the fences for Poku. Jaden McDaniels and Emmanuel Quickly, if they just had those two on this roster, again, butterfly effect, you probably don't have Chet. And so there's not many things that could have happened between now and the Chet draft that would make me say anything like, oh my gosh, they really screwed up here. This altered the future of the Thunder in a really bad way. There's not really anything that you can get, for me to say that. However, this one didn't turn out so good.
No, it's in value. This is a horrific trade, mostly because Jaden McDaniels is actually whatever they miss in terms of on-court production. There were a lot of reports that, to me, were pointing in, hey, the Thunder will never draft this guy.
Yeah.
And there had been accidents like him punching whatever and like missing a bunch of time. I mean, I'm not sure if the cultural fit is there, but if you just take the player in hindsight, which is something that the teams don't do, thank God, whatever Jaden McDaniels does on the court is exactly what OKC needs. And so that stinks a little bit. Quickly, I mean, is a nice bunch off the bench, very nice player. Not that it changes anything. I mean, yeah, he would probably play for OKC right now, even 20 something minutes. But yeah, it's not that OKC replaces that production with like super duper lesser player. I think that Kaysen and Isaiah Joe, I would probably rather have those because they give me something that I really need in terms of defense and shooting. You can say that Quickly is much more of a point scorer, which is something that probably OKC doesn't have. But hey, New York offloaded him, and they're great without. So it's not that it's a player that a can't miss kind of player.
Yeah, and he got a 5-year, $175 million deal.
Yeah,
this summer,
which is yeah, it's something that you don't want to pay. I mean, we're back in the why are we paying that guy that much?
Yeah,
kind of. I mean, in with these new rules, I think that this will be a ripple effect where, yeah, the max was just hey, if you're good and you're a young guy, then you probably get the max anyway. I'm not sure that it will be this light in terms of, hey, sure, I'm paying for for you in 4 years, not you now. Well, yes, but you are here now, so let's temper a little bit.
Yeah. Next question: how do we want to grade this? You want to go? You want to go cheese scale? What do we want to do?
Sure, whatever. I'm open.
Okay, Velveeta is the bottom still. You're
Yes.
just appalled by the idea that this could be kept on a shelf for months without being refrigerated.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, this is actually what cheese does. If you take Parmigiano Reggiano, which is one of the most known cheese, and you don't have to refrigerate that.
Yeah,
necessarily.
True.
It becomes like a little bit dry and hard. If you keep refrigerated, it's a little bit more humid, but
Yeah. What's a middle tier cheese? We can just do 3 tiers here.
Mozzarella cheese.
Okay. What's the top tier cheese?
I don't know. Real Parmesan is there are so many. I mean, little story. I mean, we have my wife has a little house over the mountains, and there is a cheese shop that you enter. It's in a dungeon. So you enter this room.
That's amazing.
I think used to be a torture room. There are all this little wood and stone kind of stuff, and there is like an insane amount of food and cheese that you'll never ever find in anywhere else. All mountain cheese, herb cheese, goat cheese, this local stuff, and they let you taste everything you want.
Wow.
And you will buy. It's not that you taste and just a little. No, you will buy, I don't know, 6 pounds every time, maybe more. Anyway, 60-month Parmesan cheese. I don't know if you have aged Parmesan cheese in the US, but that's
the one.
yeah,
Okay.
5 years. That is.
It's safe to say the Poku pick is Velveeta, just straight Velveeta.
Yeah. It's that. It's bad. He was good for a 1 preseason game. And then maybe 2-3 times.
Yeah. I love the Poku pick. I was ecstatic. I was so pumped up that they took him. He was a swing for the fences. I did podcasts with my guy Sam Vecini about him, where the idea was that if there's between 0 and 100% chance this guy's gonna be a superstar, and it hit 0. He's not even in the league anymore.
Yeah.
But just hilarious memories of this guy. He obviously made Poku packs with our good friends at Shop Good, which I still think you can get one if you want one. I have both versions here in my house, signed personally by Poku. At his first media day, I did media day interviews with the players, and I had to be masked up doing these interviews, but he's eating just like a bag of cookies, walking around, and I'm like, what is that? Like, what are you carrying around here? And he handed me one. It was an orange, like a soft orange. I don't really even remember what it was, but it was delightful, as was Poku. And then he's always very friendly, a very nice guy. I'd run into him around town a little bit, and he was always, kind and always willing to stop and talk to me. So I wish Poku nothing but the best. Nothing but the best. The Thunder also acquired, this was via the Danny Green for Al Horford trade, a second-round pick that became Teo Maladone, who was also a guy we were pumped about. We liked him.
Yes.
Listen,
we were right in our analysis. I remember.
Yeah.
He can be as good as Killian Hayes.
I was about to bring that up. Like, why? What's the difference between Teo and Killian Hayes? We're like, nothing. There's no difference.
Yeah.
And we were spot on. And they're both not good. So
yeah,
they're both Velveeta for sure.
Yes. What is the worst pick in this draft?
What is the worst pick in this draft outside of James Wiseman?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like the patch, like here's what I would pose to you. I think that it can be more damaging to your franchise to have to pay a player like a Patrick Williams, a lot of money, and you still don't know if they're good, rather than just
have to.
I know
this is the whole point.
But I'm just saying they did it. And a lot of it is that they had some loyalty to him and to their own draft picking.
Yeah.
Then just cutting Killian Hayes loose. They're just like, all right, get out of here. Like obviously the Killian Hayes pick was bad at number 7.
Yeah.
But really it's 4 to 7 were all not great. I still like Okongwu. I still think he's a guy that can really play in this league for a long time, but
if only the Hawks would decide to let him play.
There's a problem there. And from what I understand, Okongwu is not the most assertive personality too.
Yeah.
Which is adds to the ambiguity that exists there with him in this situation. So that can be tough. Jalen Smith at 10 was really bad. I mean, he didn't even finish his rookie scale deal with the Suns.
Yeah. And that to me is probably one of the worst, because Okongwu, you can say, okay, the idea was we have Trae Young, we have wings. Let's pick a big that can play with them. We have a young core. Makes sense. And it was the best player available, in my opinion. Patrick Williams, still an okay pick to make. Yeah. Extremely athletic. We knew that he was raw offensively, but you have this 6'8", 6'9" kind of wing, 6'7", 6'9". I don't remember exactly. I think it is 6'8". but there you have Book. You have a 3-point machine who happens to be a great passer,
Mm-hmm.
and you pick the stiff guy for no apparent reason.
Unreal. And a guy that it didn't even make sense at the time.
Yeah. This is after Aiton. Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Just take Vassell. Like, I understand, like, Tyrese is there, and like there was just some everybody's gun shy about Tyrese, but let's just take Vassell.
Yeah.
Just take a 6'7" wing.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, what are you doing?
Book, Michele, Vassell. I mean, that could have been a great backcourt.
Yeah.
And it's not that if you pick, if you take in Chris Paul, it changes the dynamic. You can still do that.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Smith is probably one of the worst pick in terms of talent because he was not mocked there. He was mocked much later. And also, like, what were you thinking? That you could really pair a guy who maybe shots 32% and is not athletic with Aiton? Like, this is your plan? He has no passing chops. What are you doing?
Yeah. It was bad. That was just really, really bad.
That is rotten Velveeta.
That is rotten Velveeta. That's Velveeta that is just chunked out into the middle of the road, and it just sits there for 37 days, and then that is the cheese that you get.
Yeah.
Because you can look back and you can rationalize every other pick at the time. Like Wiseman was 7-1 giant. He played very limited games with Memphis and was really good. And so, like, you get this. And the Warriors had never really played with like a rim running big. And there's a reason why. And we learned that reason why through James Wiseman. But you could rationalize this yourself at the time. Patrick Williams, he's young. He was 18 at the time, 6'8". Everybody called him the Paw because they thought that maybe he could be some version of Kawhi. Okoro at Auburn. I loved Okoro in college.
Yeah.
Like, the dude was just nasty in college.
Yeah, and he used to make like some shots. It remained some shot, very few of them. So it's that was the issue, and it's still the issue.
Yeah,
but he's an NBA player. Like, he's not a great NBA player by any means, but he will play in the league.
He's probably top 8 guy from almost everybody.
Not sure about that, but he will make the rotation.
Top 10 guy for almost everybody.
Yes, almost everybody. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. Okongwu, like you said, we liked Okongwu. Hayes, there's hype around him, mostly Kevin O'Connor, but like, people liked him.
Yeah.
Obi Toppin was outrageously productive for Dayton. Just like crazy productive for Dayton.
And he was crucial for Indiana. So that is not a bad pick. It's just Thibodeau not using him right. Yeah.
Denny's a good player. I think he'll be good for Portland. But then you get to Jalen Smith, and it's like, boy, there were a lot of people at the time that were like, I just don't see it. A good college player. Like, he was pretty good for Maryland, but it was just like, man, I don't see it. There's so many other guys that I would have taken. But yeah, straight Velveeta through this draft, honestly. Vit Krejci at 37, I remember the amount of like, who? And then he just didn't end up coming over for a while. He's landed in Atlanta and has got another deal with them, which, God bless him, that's great. I think he's a really skilled, interesting player, but and it's not like you look at the rest of the guys on the list like, oh my gosh, they can't believe they missed on Yam Mardar and CJ Ellaby. It's like, really the only guy that they really missed on, which is funny because they have him now, is Isaiah Joe, who was 49th in this draft. And they ended up getting him for free anyways. So it doesn't really matter. And
they had the best tanking point guard ever. So
listen, this draft, I would argue, the picks were straight Velveeta, but this was a finely aged cheese with regards to tanking. Like, this helped them get to where they needed to go. Beautiful, beautiful moves. And they were all like fun players to follow, which I think goes very underrated. when it comes to a rebuild, because we watched a lot of really bad basketball, but within it, you had this like true character in Poku that was just like, I just have to watch it. Like
We're definitely sugarcoating this, but anyhow, yeah.
I had to watch it. I had to watch Poku. I just had to know what was going to happen from night to night.
Yeah.
And he became our sturdy boy here in OKC with his big sturdy legs. Anyways, let's go to the 2021 draft. We got to go a little bit faster here because we're already somehow 25 minutes in and we've gone through the 2020 draft. That's kind of sad. The draft lottery goes about as poorly as possible. If you remember back, they could have had 1 in 5. They ended up with 6. Very bad. So the guys in this draft that we wanted, obviously Cade, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, were like the guys at the top of our personal lists.
Yeah.
And all those guys get taken. Scotty Barnes was a guy that before the draft, everybody had thought like, okay, it'll probably be Scotty, because everybody thought Kuminga would be the guy that got in the top 5. And so like Scotty would be the next guy that would go.
Yeah.
And he was not. He went before. He was, and Scotty, there was this outrageous team at Montverde that Cade Cunningham played on, and Scotty played on, and a couple other guys in this draft played on. And so like, he was like another one of the Montverde players. And the Raptors did the right thing in taking him. I mean, I think Scotty is, it's probably between him and Franz has like the best players in this draft currently, I would say. So anyways, the Thunder draft Josh Giddey at number 6. It was a surprise to all of us. We all thought it was going to be a much, much worse pick in James Bouknight. It was, I don't know how the smoke screen was created. That's something that I would love to know at some point. Would love to know like how that smoke screen was created and put out into the universe. But it was beautiful because you look back at every single mock draft before the 2021 draft, and it was the Thunder going to draft James Bouknight. Everybody had that. Every single person had it, and everyone was wrong. Every single person was wrong. And so, and honestly, they dodged such a big bullet not taking him. Because he is just straight up not an NBA player. Like just not at all. And has also gotten in legal trouble. There's just like there's a host of reasons why this would have been.
Hey, maybe they have Chet and Wemby if they have Bouknight. So who knows? Maybe.
Hey, listen, I'm not willing to deal in that kind of timeline, Michele.
Okay.
I'm not willing to deal in that timeline.
A few things, general thoughts. We loved Jalen Suggs. We were burned big time in year 1. I feel vindicated a bit.
I do too. Absolutely. He's a good player.
He's a good to great player. And I think that he can be better. I mean, I was looking at the numbers right now. He's shooting 5 threes, hitting 39.7% of them.
I know.
That is insane efficiency. It's good. And he defends like a maniac. So you can see a player like that be the starting 2 guard in OKC if they draft him. I'm sure that you agree that he might be a better fit than Lou Dort. Slightly? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. Like he's got the size.
Hey, he said for sure.
He also has the point guard skills. Like he can pass. He thinks the game. He plays with such high intensity. The only thing I don't like about Suggs is he's balding. And it's way too soon to be balding. And so
that is the Derek White thing. So you should be ashamed by what you just said.
Listen,
Derek White is the
2 of our favorite draft prospects ever in the history of us podcasting together. Derek White and Jalen Suggs. I mean, I would put those guys probably in like our personal top 5, like guys that we felt most strongly about. Both early balders, Yeah.
So maybe this is a theme. We should look for early balders. Like Caruso is.
True. the bald eagle, Caruso.
Yeah.
Yeah. We finally got ourselves a baldy here.
Yeah, exactly. So we didn't have any love for Jalen Green. We didn't have any love for Franz Wagner. Clearly wrong here.
Very wrong. Didn't have love for Kuminga.
No, Kuminga. No, we kind of love Cade, Mobley, and Barnes. For in different scale. I mean, Mobley was probably after Suggs one of the highest on our board.
Yeah.
We get Giddy, which is, I think, a mozzarella pick right there. It's middle of the pack. I think that you, with the number 6 pick, you need to have a little bit more production. I think that Josh Giddy in his NBA life will be that player. Will be the average number 6 guy. Will not exceed that. It's not that Giddy was a terrible player for the Thunder. It's that the Thunder drafted much better player right after him, and he had to change all his life. They drafted him because they envisioned him to be the ball handler and Shea to be the finishing guy, and that is not okay. They tried Giddy with no Shea on the court. That worked for very little time because J-Dub arrived. So it's more, hey, OKC drafted so many guys that Giddy did not fit that team anymore. I think that Giddy and Chet was the idea. And then 2 guys that are wings with creation and scoring potential just happen to be the best 2 players as of today. So not a bad pick, not a Parmesan pick, but a solid pick right there. If you draft Wagner, probably it's a slightly better outcome. Franz is not shooting the ball right now, which is not ideal, but he would be a better fit. After him, you have to go probably to the other guy that OKC should have drafted with the 16th pick, and they didn't. Trey Murphy. Between Giddy and Murph, I don't think that drafting anybody else would change except for Franz.
Yeah, and like if it comes down to,
and I'm including Alpi in this because Alpi will pose similar issue than Giddy for OKC.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and if you, it actually, like, in a funny way has worked out too, because if they drafted Franz, like, I don't think you can pay Shea, Franz, J-Dub, and Chet all max contracts.
Yeah.
And keep role players and keep this team together. You would have had to have made a pretty difficult choice. And I think the right choice is to keep Jalen over Franz.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like obviously the right choice. And so you would have to be making a really difficult choice now with Franz. And you probably would have to pay him. And then it's a good problem to have. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you had Franz Wagner on this team as your 4, he would be pretty close to perfect. Trey Murphy would be better in that role. But if you did take somehow in another timeline, you took Franz at 6 instead of Giddy, like, yeah, it fits way better. But like, how do you sustain that team? How do you keep that team together? I think the answer is like you can't. And so like now you have to make decisions, and you have to make the Franz decision before you make the J-Dub decision. And so it complicates things to a way where the Giddy pick, like, I don't think there's regret about, and I don't know this for sure, but my guess is like they don't regret drafting Josh Giddey. It just didn't work out for both teams. And like the current timeline, like I do believe, when this is such a compelling, the I'm trying to get the word in my brain. It was the report that was sent out by the Thunder talking about the trade and talking about how Josh basically didn't want to come off the bench. Like, that was so compelling. It was so interesting. You just never get press releases like that. That's the word. Press releases that look like that are just that, like, oh my gosh, like this is why this happened. This is what we did. Here's the conversations that we had. And from everything I understand, those things were, 100% right on from both sides, and like both sides would say like, yeah, Josh didn't want to do that, and this is and that's what the Thunder said. So I mean, it's just,
and it's not just about, sorry, Andrew, it's not just about the role.
Yeah.
The idea of Josh didn't want to come off the bench is also Josh wants to play for a max next season.
Oh, absolutely. It's earning potential, it's role, it's all of that.
Because if you start off the bench, you are not a max guy. If Josh comes in for Chicago and averages 24, maybe 24 is too much, 19, 9, and 9, that is a max guy. That is, someone will max him out. In OKC, that would have been probably 12, 5, and 6, which could have been a great 12, 5, and 6, but it's not 19, 9, and 9, which I really think Josh has an opportunity to do that in Chicago next season, because he will, with him and Butch, the defense will be almost comically bad.
Mm-hmm.
But they will create a lot of great looks, because I think that having like a gunning big man who just takes every pass you give it to him and makes a basket or attempts to make one with great efficiency, that is a assist machine. So I really think that Josh will make the stats next season. So
yeah, I agree. It is a middle of the road pick. Franz is like the ideal pick, but again, like for this team to work out the way that it did, and for it to work out in the future to be a team that's like, they wouldn't be able to be a team that like functions under the tax as long as they're going to, without things working out the way that they did. It's worked out outrageously well for the Thunder, even though this Josh Giddey pick did not, go the way that you thought it might. Okay, so the 16th pick, they trade Alperen Sengun to Houston for a protected Detroit Pistons pick and a protected Washington Wizards pick. The Detroit pick was protected in 2021, top 16 did not convey. 2023, top 18 did not convey. 2024, top 18 protected again, did not convey. In 2025, top 13 protected. 2026, top 11 protected. 2027, top 9 protected. You hope maybe it's going to convey. I don't know if it's going to convey.
They still owe that pick, or did they already use that for Ousmane Dieng?
The Thunder don't own it. Yeah, this is using the Oos trade. But like, I'm just like thinking about this pick, and I guess in 2026 it could possibly convey. I don't think it'll convey in 2025.
No.
In 2020, you hope that in 2026 maybe they're out of the top 11.
Maybe.
It's just crazy. It is just crazy that this has been kicked. If you would have told me in 2021 about the protections on this pick, and that they were, they're getting Cade Cunningham, this is their ticket out of here, you think, oh, for sure by 2024, maybe they'll be.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, and then the Wizards pick, which was also traded. The Thunder don't own this one either, but 2023 was lottery protected. 2024 is top 12 protected, didn't convey. 2025 top 10 protected, probably not going to convey. 2026 is 1 through 8 protected. There's a chance this one doesn't convey at all. Then it turns into 2 second rounders in 26, 27. So the Thunder got rid of those picks within a year, which was probably good, because now those, you just don't. I would guess one of those won't convey and the other one may not convey until 26 or 27, which would be fine if you still owned it. It'd actually be a pretty nice pick to own. But they traded those as a part of the Ousmane Dieng trade.
But if you...
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, if you look like, hey, they traded Alperen Sengun for Ousmane Dieng, that sounds like a horrible trade to make. But I'm more and more convinced that pick was, and John Hamm explained that perfectly, like they had to secure that pick in order to get J-Dub. and they had to pick another player, not J-Dub, because that trade could fail.
Yeah.
So
and they wanted both.
They wanted both, which
traded
it's
traded 3
yeah.
picks so they could draft both. They wanted both.
Yeah. If you put Jalen Williams into a trade idea, then everything works to the perfection. If you don't, then this trade is terrible, because they had the possibility to draft probably the best player to complement the previous roster, the current roster, the next roster, and I don't think that Trey Murphy will command max money. I don't think that he is an expensive player. But if I have to choose between 2 years of Hartenstein at 30 millions or 4 years at whatever for for Murph, I would get Murph immediately.
Yeah.
Even if it costs me renouncing Dort in the future, I don't care. That is probably the best wing that you can complement a team with Shea and Jada, because he's a gunner, he's tall, he defends well, not as Dort, to be honest. I mean, he's not that level of defender, but he's a crazy shooter. With size, which is something that OKC misses. Anyhow, I don't even think that he was that high on the radar of OKC. Otherwise, they just pick him.
He was 21 at the time.
Yeah,
and I don't know. He actually has like the profile of a player that is not unlike Thunder guys, because he was somebody that kind of had to fight his way. He played for Rice. Before he played for Virginia. He had a very unusual path to like high level D1 basketball, which is not unusual for a lot of the guys that are on this current squad.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, he was not their guy. So I mean, I think that trade, looking back at it now, with as good and as Alperen is and the value that he would have around the league, it's probably a bit higher than those 2 protected first round picks. Like if Houston was going to try to flip him today, they could probably get more than that. And if you did get 2 picks, they would probably have lighter protections on them than that, just because he is a valuable player. On the other end of that, I don't want to be the person paying Şengün's next contract. So I'm not like saying like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I just think the value overall, while on balance, is better than most value for the 16th pick for sure in most years. But Şengün isn't your average 16th pick. Like he's it was a really good pick for Houston.
Vooch sourced 3 first rounders.
Yeah.
I think that is probably the value that Alpi can get on the market. I'm not sure that many GM would pay that. So there will be a few that pay. I'm not sure that is the right choice. I think that Orlando made a masterful job at selling Vooch at the right time. Chicago made a horrible job at paying that and paying Vooch twice. So it's I think the Alpi is a player that can put up numbers, that can put stats, which are the same thing, that can play a certain way that please people who are watching. I think that someone, I don't remember who, probably on the Helm to Dark, I don't remember. Someone said, in order to be, maybe you, in order to be great with that skill level, you have to be with Jokic in order to be conducive to winning basketball, which I think maybe not Jokic, but you need to be in that same tier of player.
Yeah. He's just not as big as Jokic, which is going to be a struggle for him.
You need to defend like Horford if you want to be that.
Yeah, he's got to defend better. And he doesn't shoot either, which is like a huge differentiator between he and Jokic. Is that Jokic like can shoot threes.
Yeah, if you let him, he will surely kill you.
Alpi just hasn't developed that yet. Which, I mean, maybe he will, but his touch overall is just not as good as Jokic, which nobody is. So
his passing is nowhere near. So
it's a tough scale to put him on, but like in order to be that kind of player and be a franchise, like this is your franchise cornerstone, like you have to be Jokic level good. Pick 18, they took Trey Mann. We were both fans of him. He's a sophomore out of Florida. Killer step back. It just didn't end up working out for the Thunder. That's probably a Velveeta pick at the end of the day.
Yeah.
With
He had great moments.
Oh, he had some killer moments where he scoring 20 points in a quarter. You know, he did
Against
that
Derek White. He
did it
cooked.
against Miami, did it against Boston. Yeah. Yeah. Now he's
And
on.
if you look later,
Now he's on the Thunder Hornets. So
yeah. Jalen Johnson, not a fan of the draft. I hate that at the draft. Probably would have been a better pick for OKC. Santi Aldama, still probably more the hype than the real player, but
yeah.
would have been, and it's probably a pick that OKC wanted to make.
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, it feels like a little early, but like that, I don't think OKC cares where they pick guys. You know, that we saw that with Dylan Jones this past year. Like, nope, they didn't give a rip. That's who they wanted, you know?
Yeah.
And if they wanted Santi, they probably take him at 18, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe they thought he would fall to 32.
Yeah.
You know, not to say that they didn't want Jeremiah Robinson Earl, but I think that maybe Santi was on a list where maybe they get him at 32. But he's also not making or breaking anything that you're doing.
Yeah.
So
Herb Jones, not a player that would fit easily, but much better player than Trey Mann and then Jerry. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's some sneaky good players in the second round with Herb Jones. You know, Deuce McBride at 36 for the Knicks.
Yeah.
Good player that has ended up working out. He's one that had to really develop in the G League. And he has become a very, very nice player for them. Ayo Dosunmu, too, like really good size for a guard.
Yeah.
One of Chicago's better picks in a while. That's really worked out. And Aaron Wiggins, honestly, like that's for the 55th pick.
That is like aged cheese.
This is the aged Parmesan. This is like our first real aged Parmesan that's happening for OKC. And he's the only one left. You know, Jeremiah's gone. And, you know, Aaron Wiggins got his second contract. You can envision him being in OKC for a long time. He's this versatile 6'5" wing that can guard some wings and guards and just does a little bit of everything. And it just feels like good things happen when Aaron Wiggins is on the court.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a tremendous pick for OKC at 55 with really nobody else that worked out. Shout out Kalixakis, who was picked 60th in this draft and did wear a Thunder uniform at one time. But yeah, this is our first aged cheese here with the 55th pick with Aaron Wiggins. Just tremendous work. Yeah,
and I mean, in summer league, Wiggs was Wiggs already. Maybe a little bit. I think that's something that from Aaron Wiggins that we will see in the coming years is going back a little bit to his multi-dimensional 3-level scoring ability, because I do think that one of the calling card in college was this mid-range jumper, which was pretty fluid. And now, as every role player, they clean out the mid-range shots mostly, because you don't want to tap into that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a role player kind of shot. Lou Dort learned that. Wiggs never used it basically, unless it's a late clock situation. I think that there is more offensively for Aaron Wiggins, and I mean that is a great pick. Building slowly, always prepared, always ready, very serious. No matter how many minutes you play, there is production that is scalable, which is something that I really like. If he plays 3 minutes, good. If he plays 25, good for 25, which is extremely important.
Mm-hmm. And he likes to hang out inside his locker before games. Have I told this story on the pod before? I don't know if I have.
No.
I was in the locker room one time. I thought I was alone with like Thunder PR, but then all of a sudden, Aaron Wiggins climbs out of his locker as if we're in like a Harry Potter movie or something, and just like climbs out of his locker and just kind of walks out. Like, oh my gosh, it kind of scared me. He's a funny guy.
Maybe
Last
he
year when
was meditating.
I mean, maybe, but some people asked. I was asking some of the Thunder players last year at Media Day, like, who's your funniest teammate, and he definitely got that. I got that answer several times. Was Wiggs. So
maybe he just wanted to make a prank to you guys, the media. Who knows?
He could have really scared me if he wanted to. Like, really freaked me out if he really wanted to.
But that is too intentional. Like, that shows that he cares about you too much. It was just, hey, let's randomly scare him and leave mystery in it.
I think he was probably just hoping that I was going to leave, a little bit faster than I did, and he's trying to hide out. Probably more of the case. Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk quickly about 22 and 23. We'll be right back. And we're back after that quick break. A couple questions that I can answer from the chat. Number one from Big Head 2323. Why doesn't the pod show up on the Athletic app anymore? I've had some back end issues with WordPress and stuff like that. It should be fixed today, so you should be able to listen to those on the app again. So I do apologize because I know a lot of you have written in about that. And then Seth Justice says, have the lads discussed the Game Theory podcast 24 under 24 rankings? Have you been listening to any of this yet?
No, not yet.
Somebody on this show may be participating in that at some point or another. So just saying, we'll see. We'll see if it ends up working out. So keep your ears open, everybody. Okay, 2022. And one of the greatest moments in Thunder history, which was the draft lottery day. My wife and I were coming back from Florida. I think I've told this story many times on the show, but I'll tell it again. I rented a convertible. This was on our birthday/anniversary trip. Rented a convertible, driving down beachside. Bird poops on me as we're driving, lands right on my head. Plop. The day of the draft lottery. I believe that was the luck that we needed to pull.
Sure.
So, just so everybody knows that
what
bird.
Kind of bird?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But it was a foreshadowing. And I was actually, you can ask Amy. I was actually very excited after that bird pooped on my head. I knew. I knew.
I don't have to ask her. I believe you.
I knew what it meant.
Yeah.
And it was correct. The Thunder drew the number 2 pick that night. If you were with us at the Jones Assembly, it was such a fun time.
Yeah.
Is it it was more fun because we know what it's like to draw number 6 when you're supposed to draw something in the top 4. Yeah. And so to actually go through the pain of a bad season and then get the number 2 pick, it was just complete jubilation. We all knew it was going to be Chet from that moment, or at least we all hoped it would be Chet. It did end up being Chet that night. This is obviously an aged Cheddar. You could age it for 50 years. This is the best it could be. I believe that Chet is going to have a breakout season this year. He was already amazing in year 1. Obviously, he missed his first year. We all know that. But in his first year to play, we know that he was already amazing. I think his ceiling is so high. So yeah, this is aged Cheddar, no question. Not aged Cheddar, no, aged Parmesan.
Aged whatever, like a very good Gouda Cheddar, whatever that you can get. And I think that it's the great is yet to come. The good we already seen, and I'm confident that what Mark Dagnall said at the end of the season, that this is the worst version of Chet that we ever see. It's actually the truth. And I mean, this is why this pick is just insane value. And so it's the rest of the draft for OKC, I think, because that the second part is also extremely, extremely great for OKC. I mean, yes, we probably don't like I'm not sure if Andrew is frozen or not, or if I am, but
I'm not
oh,
frozen. Sorry.
you were very still. Okay, I was very fast because I don't know if I was alone or anyhow. I can stop there. Yeah, Parmesan cheese for Jadongren and Velveeta for Usman Jang, but a Velveeta that I would at least entertain putting somewhere on my food if that is conducive to get the other piece of Parmesan in Jalen Williams.
Yeah. This is the draft that made this version of the Thunder. Like, obviously you have Shea, which is, it's almost unfair to start your rebuild with Shea. Like, with obviously the skill level and the kind of player that he is unbelievable. He's a top 3 player in the NBA. But then like the leadership and the enthusiasm and just the vibes that he provides for this team, it was like perfect for a rebuilding team because he works really hard. He's just everything that you could want in a superstar, and more. And so to start is just like a cheat code for any rebuild. You know, if Detroit or Charlotte or any of these teams started their rebuild with him, and like, by the way, Charlotte had him on draft night, by the way, and traded him for Miles Bridges. So shout out to Charlotte management. But to start your rebuild with him is like a crazy cheat code. And then for you in basically the second draft, or you could call it the third draft, but I would call it like their second like real draft, where it's like, okay, we are really throwing everything into this. It is just so perfect for them. This is what made the Thunder, was getting lucky in the lottery and then using the Clippers pick to get J-Dub, which was not a consensus pick. He was not if people knew how good he was, he would have gone third in this draft.
Yes.
People didn't know.
And I feel that like in this draft, there is, except for Johnny Davis, which has not turned out to be a player, and Usman Jang, which is arguably one of the worst picks so far. It's not that there were like a lot of very bad decisions. Jalen Williams was not going top 10. There were teams like the Raptors, which were outside and had intel that OKC wanted him, that tried their best to get him. But I mean, teams that were higher had no interest. Like teams that were back, 17, 16, whatever, they had all the interest to climb and get him. So I do think that this is a good draft in terms of decision. If you look at the Pelicans drafting Dyson Daniels, that is a fine pick at 8. It's not that later you could get like amazing talent, except for J-Dub. So if you remove J-Dub for the 12th pick, then the draft is, I mean, they drafted okay. There are like no real mistakes in this draft, which I don't know, it's cool. They're shading sharp. Nice 7th pick so far. Sohan, good. Jalen Duran, I think it's more than fine for a 13th pick. Again, for O's, I don't know. AJ Griffin was my guy, and he's not a guy.
He's already on a team.
Yeah. So it's not Mark Williams. You could have a guy like that. They didn't have time to create a player like that. They much rather like get Hartenstein, which is better than both Jalen Duran and Mark Williams so far. So it's fine. OKC is another pick. Jalen Williams, it's fine. It's not that after him there is anybody that is worth picking. So
I mean, you look at the list. It's a bunch of guys that have either not made it. A lot of these guys have changed teams already. It's kind of unusual for there not to be somebody that really hits. But I mean, Vince Williams Jr. is probably the only one that's like really hit. And he played for Memphis when they were bad. So I think it. And Jay Will is like one of the best second rounders, honestly. That goes after 34. Like Nimhard at 31 great pick. But after that, like Max Christie's okay. Jaden Hardy is interesting, but I don't think he'd play on the Thunder. He'd be like, he's like Trey. He's like another version of Trey Mann, like a worse Trey Mann, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He doesn't have like that killer step back. Yeah, it's really just Vince Williams. And, at the time, he was a senior, almost 22 years old. So it's just, I don't know. I'm not, you're not losing sleep over Vince Williams either. So,
no.
And like, honestly, you may rather have Jay Will for the vibes that he brings to your team.
Sure.
And like, now that he's your third center, like he's a great third center.
Yes.
Like he's
that you can rest your first big man and have two big men left that are very good.
Yeah. It's a pick that I would say like, yeah, do that one over again. I mean, for a second rounder, it's maybe like a 6-month aged cheese,
Yeah, or a very, very good mozzarella.
Or great mozzarella. Listen, and there's some really good mozzarella out there, everybody.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. I'm not sure that you have a clear idea, but the day you will come and visit, I mean, there are too many food places that I should drive you, but finding great mozzarella is probably an easy task over here. So we'll see.
Yep. The Oos pick is, I mean, it's Velveeta.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. He was a swing. He was like, it's similar to the Poku pick where it's like, listen, this is giant skilled player that if it hits, it's incredible. But there's a good chance that it misses. And just to take the chance, like I applaud the swing. Because
I'm not sure that I applaud this particular swing. Again, not that there are many players that you can really draft in that spot that are much better. Because I mean, no Agbaji, no Duran, and you don't draft Christian Brown, to be honest. So I don't know. In some sense, yes, I would have drafted AJ Griffin anyway, just to see if it works.
Yeah. Here's where it would have really hurt is if they just took Oos and they didn't have a second pick and J-Dub goes to the Pistons or something, or goes to the Cavs. Like that's where it would really, really hurt.
Then maybe you have a great version of Giddey. Because you have...
Yeah, but we all know, like I'm a Josh Giddey guy and have been through and through. Like I'm a supporter of him. I think he's a good player. He's a weird player, but I think he's a good player. He's so smart. He's such a smart decision maker. But the heights that J-Dub can hit,
oh yeah. No.
It's just not even close. Like we're not even on the same planet between those two.
Hey, maybe you have a chance to get Wemby then.
Honestly, you probably would. You probably you probably would have that chance. Incredible draft that made this era of the Thunder just incredible. 2023, the Thunder trade up to get Cason Wallace at pick 10, and they essentially just take on the money of Davis Bertans in order to get the 10th pick so they can take their guy, Cason Wallace. And then Derek Lively goes 12, which clearly Derek Lively is an extremely good player, but and maybe this wouldn't have been a problem for him. And now that we have Hartenstein, you kind of think like, oh, perhaps you could have had Derek Lively as your backup center. Because he has some he doesn't have as good of touch necessarily,
but he's a better defender. I believe that
than Hartenstein.
Yeah, yeah. He's sensational,
more explosive. Yeah,
he changed the geometry of OKC's offense by himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do think that it's the only question of the draft. And I think that is also the right choice not to pick Derek Lively, because you really wanted to give this 5-out look a real chance for a full year, because you had the Giddy issue, not issue, the Giddy proposition, like, let's see if he can really work out. And you wanted to play Chad exclusively as center for a year to see how it looked like and to see what it works, to see how the pairing with another big guy work. And now that you have all the intel, you can, yes, pay more for a guy that is a better passer, a better offensive player, I think, a lesser defender, but not a bad defender. I'm just saying that Derek Lively probably next season would be better. And maybe teams will have scouting reports on him and it will not be as effective, like Kessler. Kessler seemed like this incredible defender.
Mm-hmm.
And now Derek Lively did that in the playoffs, where everybody had the scouting report, and that did not matter. Mm-hmm. So I am positive in saying that this is a great pick for the Mavericks. Mm-hmm. I think that this has the chance to be a great pick for the Thunder as well, because Kaysen was good defensively, very good, and he shot the ball extremely well. And I think that OKC just tapped into that potential because of minutes, because of kind of role. If you let Kaysen grow organically in the team, in 2 years, he can be an insane value for the Thunder. Maybe not as high as Lively, but you don't really measure the draft in relative terms. You measure in absolute terms. And if Kaysen Wallace is a borderline, well, even if he's a strong role player, that is a great pick to make at 10. Maybe just above, like top 6 rotation. If you have a top 5, top 6 rotation as a 10 pick, that is great pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, Kaysen is the kind of player that you want in this era of basketball, because point of attack defense, and Boston proved this in their title run, is crucial. It is crucial to being a contender. And the Thunder have literally tripled down on that with having Dort, drafting Kaysen, and acquiring Alex Caruso. And all three are not liabilities offensively. Maybe they're not like the best offensive players, but they're all good offensive players. Kaysen has a chance to be like a pretty steady offensive player. I don't think he showcased even anything close to what he can be as an offensive player last year. I think he was in a very small, limited role, and they're going to bring him along. I think the Josh Giddey trade, gives him more of an opportunity to handle the basketball this year. And I think that could be a point of emphasis for him. You know, there's still a lot of development to happen on this roster. And I think Kaysen is like one of the guys that needs that development. And so I think this is a mozzarella. This is like a very nice mozzarella pick. Mm-hmm. It's not like a absolute home run. It could end up being a home run eventually, but I like the pick. I like the archetype of player. And he just plays hard. Like, you don't ever have to question like whether he's going to bring it. Like, he brings it every single night. So, and he was really young when they drafted him. He was 19 when they drafted him, and so there's just a lot of runway there for him.
And it's not that I really question the shooting. I mean, I went back a little bit and rewatched some of the numbers. Yes, Kaysen started off extremely hot, but he also finished the season pretty hot. So it's more like a dip, wwhere every rookie has a dip, Chet Holmgren included, because he finished the last 20 games of the season at 44% from three on 3.1 shots per game. Like, that is good.
Yep.
that is really good. It's yes, he shot bad in the playoffs. J-Dub has, I mean, if you look at J-Dub's playoff splits so far, those are not really good. And yes, Kaysen had not a great shooting during the playoffs. Welcome to, hey, the playoffs are hard kind of thing. for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really. And he just had like 2 bad games, game 5, and game 6, which really put his percentage down. But I mean, I really trust Kazin to be someone who can be more than the average role player for you in the coming season, and he will probably pose monetary issues for OKC, which is fine because they will come much later on, which is crucial. In 3 years, you have to make a decision. In 3 years, you no longer have Hartenstein money. You no longer probably have Caruso. You probably already made decision on Chet, Jadam, and Shea. And if you have 3 extremely good players that are all-stars, then it's much easier to say to the others, hey, guys, this is it. Good money, not max.
Yeah. I think that's right. And then they took Keontae Johnson at 50, which is it's the 50th pick. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's Velveeta, but listen, second round picks from like 45 on are usually just straight Velveeta. So like nothing to worry about with any of that. There's not anybody that you're just like, oh my gosh. It's not like
how it's Tarek Biberovic. How can you say that there is nobody else? Or Tumani Kamara.
Hey, Tumani Kamara.
Tumani plays, but is also not a real player.
Listen, yeah, I'm totally fine. Totally fine there. There was not an error. This is not good. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I back?
You're back.
Sorry. I don't know what just happened. Okay. I'm back. And just in time to end this podcast. Thanks so much for listening to our show. Sorry for some technical difficulties here at the end of the pod. I don't know what happened.
Wait. We have to briefly comment Great Ape saying that Tumani is a real player. I know. He will be the top 7 rotation player at worst his whole career. That's a bit too rich for me. I mean, top 7 is he might be the top 7 rotation on a team that has very few players. I'm not sure that Tumani. I like the defensive acumen. I do. The offensive part is so far behind that I question that he would actually be a top 7 rotation player in a team that matters. But anyhow, that is the only guy that you can say, hey, maybe you get that guy.
He's already 24. We all.
You're muted again.
I don't know what is happening with my audio. This is insane. Okay. Am I back again?
Yes, you're back.
He's already 24 years old. We all know that we have to be careful with guys at this with bad teams. Like you just have to be careful. I mean, just go back and look at some Isaiah Roby takes. Just go back and look at the Roby takes. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. Appreciate you. Again, if you want to be on 5-Star Friday, be sure to leave us a 5-star iTunes review in that Purple Podcast app, probably by Wednesday. Would love to read as many of those as possible. Hope you guys are doing great, and we'll talk to you guys again on Wednesday.